At the end of the first episode of Season 2 of Squid Game, the Salesman and Gi-hun play Russian Roulette while Sarah Brightman and Andrea Bocelli's Time to Say Goodbye plays in the background. Although it was unexpected, Gong, the salesman, was the center of the first episode of Squid Game Season 2. The recruiter, who stole the show in the first season, finally got his big break this year. The salesman is a contributing factor to Gi-hun's inability to put the past in the past and find happiness in America. If no one intervened, the games would go on, as Gi-hun witnessed the salesman recruiting another desperate person at the airport in the Season 1 conclusion of Squid Game. 2 years after tracking down the salesman, Gi-hun finally met the game's recruiter in person. The salesman had every intention of playing a game and had the music arranged. The salesman took out his phone to play Time to Say Goodbye, a cover of Cante per Tiro by Andrea Bocelli, which features Sarah Brightman and is partly sung in English. Right before he was going to begin playing Russian Roulette with Gi-hun, one of the most iconic songs of all time, Time to Say Goodbye, exploded in popularity after its 1996 release, surpassing even the 1995 Italian original. Gongo's character is beautifully portrayed by the salesman's choice to play that song before engaging in a dangerous game with Gi-hun. It properly illustrates that he was not frightened to die, although he intended to set a sophisticated and self-aware tone for the Russian roulette game. The salesman couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of playing the song Time to Say Goodbye before starting the game. The salesman thought it was fair and normal to have wretched people play dangerous games, as he had spent much of his life working for the Squid Game organizers. Because of this, the recruiter had no fear of death and went so far as to play Time to Say Goodbye as a joke for Gi-hun. Time to Say Goodbye. Although the meaning of the song's lyrics can be understood in several ways, one common interpretation is that it is about leaving behind areas that have never been visited or experienced with a certain person. The song also touches on the idea of reliving distant memories of loved ones or things. Although the salesman probably wasn't going for a literal interpretation, Time to Say Goodbye did a great job of setting the mood for a particularly dramatic sequence in Season 2 of Squid Game. Gi-hun was deserving of a memorable farewell scene because, despite his limited screen time, he was a major draw in Season 1. In the first episode of Squid Game Season 2, the salesman squared off against Gi-hun in a game of Russian roulette, and the use of a classic song helped achieve that. The opening episode of Season 2 of Squid Game does a fantastic job of setting the scene and establishing the salesman's beliefs and motivations. Even without any flashbacks to his background, we can presume that Gong Yu's character joined the masked guards at a young age, as he devoted most of his life to the Squid Game. If the salesman was raised to view the games and receive the validation he sought in this perverted business, then his willingness to die for them makes sense. That is why the recruiter had no qualms about engaging in a non-resettable game of Russian roulette. The salesman was ideal for the role because of his warped view of fate and the worth of human life. He would resort to murder to make his point, even though he had the opportunity to shoot Gi-hun and stop the game. He persisted until the very end. Episode 1 of Squid Game Season 2 included Gong Yu's performance and backstory, making him the show's standout character. How he sees the world. It may still seem unusual that someone would be prepared to participate in such a horrific event, even though the salesman's biography explains how he transformed from a disguised guy to a recruiter. A lot of the guards in Squid Game are just in it for the money, according to Guard 011 from Season 2, which makes them no different from the players. But Gongo made it plain in his monologue in the first episode of Season 2 of Squid Game that he was never in it for the money. The salesman was of the opinion that the world needs more sad individuals. The recruiter for the Squid Game considered hopeless, miserable humans to be refused that should be emptied of their bodies. Things like giving homeless people the option of bread or a lottery ticket were examples of the salesman's distorted, cruel view of humanity. This is the rationale behind the title of the premiere episode of Squid Game Season 2, Bread or Lottery. The fact that the majority of homeless people were choosing lottery tickets, according to the salesman, proved that they preferred to leave their fate to chance, which in turn validated the concept of the games.